Over the rules in the dressing room, you know exactly what I expect. Listen to me at all times, keep yourself protected. When I say stop, you stop. If you want to touch, now's the time.
Boom, Sergei Pavlovich once again knocks out his opponent in the first round. What the hell is this Russian doing? He knocked out the top 5 of this division, a potential contender for the belt. Can anyone stop him at all? Now more than ever, he deserves a title fight against Jon Jones. Hello fighters with you MMA Predictions channel. In this video, I will give a prediction for a potential fight between Jon Jones and Sergei Pavlovich. But before starting this video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like it so that as many fans as possible can see this issue. Sergei Pavlovich came to the main promotion of the world as an ordinary nondescript heavyweight, and even more so his debut left much to be desired. He flew away from Alistair Overeem in the first round, and his future in the company raised a lot of questions. But he realized what mistakes he had made, and in subsequent fights now, he finished fights in the first rounds, victory after victory, one brighter than the previous one, and finally he is given a more or less strong top under the name Shamil Abdurakhimov, who was at that time on the 10th line, and this boost would greatly help in promoting the Russian fighter. Sergei, as well as in previous fights, stopped Abdurakhimov by knockout in the first round, thereby taking his 10th line. After the company assessed his prospects and gave a gift as a fight with Derek Lewis, Pavlovich dealt with him in less than a minute, and thus he firmly settled in the top 5 of the division. His next test was a shirt named Tai Tuivasa, who, like Sergei, does not mind being hacked. But as practice shows, it is Pavlovich who knows as best to do it. He knocks out his opponent, and again in less than a minute, and the fans are shocked to say the least. And now the company finally gives him someone worthwhile who can give a competitive fight, and also give a title fight if he wins. His next opponent was Curtis Blades, whom Sergei knocked out in the first round, and now the whole world of MMA is with his eyes and mouth open as it is. He was again able to knock out a fighter who was supposed to deliver him a competitive fight. And now, after a convincing victory over the next top of the division, he can finally get a title fight against Jon Jones. Fans are also looking forward to this battle. For them it will be something like White and Ngannou versus Jon Jones. They just wanted Ngannou to fight Jones, their dreams come true. Though Ngannou is white, but no one will pay attention to this. They are similar in technique for introducing a fight. But we will move directly to the analysis of the fight itself. Let's look at all the minuses and pros of Pavlovich in order to give the expected answer whether he can become a champion. Percussive style. And we will begin to analyze the fight with the recent triumphant Sergei Pavlovich. Once again, he did not leave a chance to his opponent by knocking him out in the first round, although I remind you that many predicted his collapse not only in the fight, but also in the stand. But Pavlovich is in the top 5, absolutely deserved. His plan is always the same. He goes forward with the hope of accurately chopping his counterpart, and while he succeeds, many may think that Sergei hits the type of hit I won't hit, but this is not entirely true. Let's remember the fight between Pavlovich and Abdurakhimov. Remember how Sergei finished the fight. He punched, you might say, a half uppercut, a half side, and he flew right into the jaw. In the same way, he got the jaw and blades. Look, if you don't believe me, you can say a similar blow, a blank, and from this we conclude Sergei always has a plan for the fight. Let's move on to the striking technique of Jon Jones. Alas, I can't say anything worthwhile about it, since in the last fight he spent quite a bit on his hands. His game plan was to translate again, but in some moments he did not work badly in the rack. But these were just micro episodes that did not give anything significant. Right now I can't say that Jones slowed down after his downtime, or vice versa, his punches became much faster and stronger. If you look at Jones before the break, then we can say that he is a complete fighter with a good base of punches. He can punch with his feet and also surprise with his various backfists. Jones has never been famous for his knockout power, but do not forget that he has become more. And what will happen if Pavlovich plays too much and does not notice a hard punch from the champion? Perhaps his strength has increased and become much more dangerous. Now let's move on to the definition of the favorite. After a few minutes of deliberation, I will still give this aspect to Pavlovich. Many may be shocked by my statement, but Sergei is showing himself at the highest level right now, and we have not yet seen Jones with overweight in the rack. Playing from below. As for Jon Jones' wrestling skills, he will have a huge advantage. On the eve of his fight against Gunn, everyone wondered if Jones would be able to translate such a huge opponent. And as we saw in the fight, for simple he did it. Jon had masterfully mastered his fight before and used this aspect in almost all fights. But in the fight against Dominic Reyes, his wrestling skill failed, and the fans had it in their heads. And on the eve of the fight against Cyril, they often reminded him of this episode, when he could not translate, but the greatest for that, and the greatest to shock and surprise, he easily translated the natural weight and then choked. Pavlovich clearly needs to intensively prepare the fight so that it does not work out like in his debut. Let's move on to the struggle of the Russian, and here he may have big problems. As we know, in the last fight Sergei fought with a tough wrestler, many assumed that Blades would immediately start fighting. But no, he decided to work in a rack for which he paid. I still wonder why Curtis did not use his fight in this fight. What prevented him? This can be said to be his main and only key to victory. Sergei is really one of the wrestlers in his career and has not met some drummers. Only in the last fight a good wrestler came out, but for some reason he refused to show us his skills. So the favorite, I think you know who without me. If Jones translates Pavlovich, then it is unlikely that he will rise. Cardio and spirit. Let's move on to the endurance of athletes and what kind of video in a row. I can't say anything about Pavlovich's cardio. I keep hoping that at least someone will pull him into deep waters and finally test him. But no, absolutely everyone falls in the first round. I'm not talking about the fact that he once went through 5 rounds, since the opposition of the rivals there was below the plinth. Let's move on to Jon Jones' gas tank, and it's also not so simple. Jones was a real maniac in this regard before gaining weight, but now he has too much weight on him, and whether he will withstand it or not is an urgent question today. As for the favorite, Jones, who has already shown himself in the long run, will be preferable. As for the spirit, here I will choose Pavlovich, who is a young prospect, and he will do everything for the sake of the belt without hesitation. Forecast. In this fight, I will believe more in the legend of this sport, Jon Jones. I think he knows that Pavlovich is a dangerous fighter, and he will prepare a special game plan that will stop the young prospect. The future of fighters. Jones, after defeating Sergei, is likely to end his career. He already has enough victories and title defenses to retire. Pavlovich, on the other hand, will try to break into the title race again. Given that Jones has retired, he will have a great chance of taking the belt